The year is 1600. Japan is tearing itself apart. The Battle of Sekigahara has just decided the fate of the nation. Tokugawa Ieyasu is the new shogun, ruler of a fractured archipelago held together by the sword. And the sword, in Japan, is not just a weapon. It is a soul. A katana takes a master smith months to forge. Folded steel. Sacred process. Every blade is unique. Every blade is alive. In a castle workshop outside Edo, a retainer of the Tokugawa clan finds something that should not exist. A gray box, waist-high, with a flat glass surface on one side and a spool of strange cord on the other. It hums. It is warm. And when the retainer touches the glass, a light appears. A shape. Rotating in 3 dimensions on a surface thinner than rice paper. The shogun is summoned. Tokugawa Ieyasu is many things: patient, ruthless, brilliant, but above all, he is practical. He does not ask where the box came from. He does not ask what spirit inhabits it. He asks one question: what does it make? The retainer presses the glass. The box whirs. And from its center, layer by layer, emerges a perfect chess piece. A rook. Made of something smooth and light. It takes 11 minutes. Ieyasu holds the rook between his fingers. He tries to break it. It flexes but does not snap. He drops it into a fire. It melts. He understands immediately. This box does not create anything permanent. But it creates anything fast. And in a nation where craftsmanship takes years, speed is a weapon more powerful than any blade. Within a week, the shogun's engineers have decoded the interface. The preloaded designs are useless: phone cases, figurines, things from a world they cannot imagine. But the software includes a basic shape editor. And Japanese craftsmen, who have spent centuries mastering geometry and form, learn it in days. They begin designing arrowheads. Then spear tips. Then something that changes everything: armor plates. PLA plastic cannot stop a katana. But it can stop a rock. A fist. A glancing blow. And when layered over leather and bamboo, the standard base of Japanese armor, it adds a shell that no opponent expects. The 1st Regiment, outfitted with 3D printed reinforced armor, marches out of Edo in spring 1601. They look wrong. Uncanny. Their armor gleams like insect shells. The enemy calls them the white wasps. But the true revolution is not the armor. It is the principle. Before the printer, every object in Japan was made by a human being with hands and time. A sword took months. A suit of armor took a year. A castle could take a decade. The printer makes none of these things well, but it makes components fast. Hinges. Brackets. Pulleys. Gears. The invisible infrastructure of industry. Mass-produced. Identical. Disposable. And this is where the samurai begin to die. Not in battle, in relevance. The samurai code, Bushido, is built on the idea that warriors are special. That their training, their discipline, their hand-forged blades make them superior to common men. But when a peasant can strap on printed armor and carry a spear with a printed tip, what makes the samurai special? Nothing. Honor becomes a luxury. Then a memory. By 1620, the printer has been reverse-engineered. Not perfectly, they cannot replicate the electronics. But they understand the principle: heat a material, extrude it through a nozzle, build layer by layer. Japanese metalworkers adapt the concept. They build crude extruders powered by water wheels. They melt tin, copper, even glass. The output is rough. Ugly. And it changes everything. Japan industrializes. 250 years before Britain. There is no what? No arkwright. No spinning jenny. Instead, there is a nation of master craftsmen who understood precision before they understood engines, and who now have both. Factories rise in Osaka. Shipyards in Nagasaki. Iron foundries in Kyoto, powered by rivers that once turned prayer wheels. The last samurai rebellion happens in 1635. A coalition of traditionalist clans, men who still believe the sword is sacred, march on Edo. They are met by conscript armies carrying mass-produced rifles. The battle lasts 4 hours. The samurai charge with honor and courage and beauty. They die with all three. The age of the warrior ends not with a whisper, but with a volley. By 1700, Japan has steel-hulled ships. By 1720, it has artillery that can level a castle from 2 miles away. And in 1731, the shogun, a descendant of Ieyasu, inheritor of the printer's legacy, looks west across the Sea of Japan and asks a question no Japanese ruler has ever asked before: why should we stay on these islands? The invasion of Korea takes 6 weeks. China holds out for a year. India falls to a naval blockade that Europe cannot match. Japan does not colonize the way Europe does in our timeline. There are no missionaries, no claims of civilizing the savage. There is only expansion. Resource extraction. Efficient, organized, industrial-scale expansion. The same precision that once folded steel now folds continents. Europe, in this timeline, is still medieval. Still feudal. Still fighting with swords and matchlock muskets borrowed from the Portuguese, who themselves are a minor trading nation with no industrial base. When Japanese ships appear in the Mediterranean in 1789, the courts of France and Spain and England do not know what they are looking at. Iron ships. That move without sails. Against the wind. The colonization of Europe begins in 1802. It is not violent at first. Japan offers trade agreements that are impossible to refuse because the alternative is bombardment. European monarchs sign treaties they cannot read, written in a language they have never heard, binding them to an empire that spans 2/3 of the globe. The sun never sets on the Tokugawa domain. In Paris, the Eiffel Tower is never built. Instead, a Japanese-designed administrative pagoda rises above the Seine, 40 stories of steel and glass, built in a style that blends Edo with engineering. In London, the Houses of Parliament become a regional governance office. In Rome, the Colosseum is restored as a sumo arena. And in the Imperial Museum of Edo, a building larger than any European cathedral, sits the original printer. Gray. Dusty. Its PLA spool long exhausted. Its screen cracked from the earthquake of 1707. It is the most sacred object in the empire. More sacred than any sword. Because the sword was the symbol of what Japan was. The printer is the symbol of what Japan became. The irony is surgical. A device designed to help hobbyists make phone stands and miniature figurines, a toy, really, a consumer gadget, becomes the seat of the largest empire in human history. Not because of what it could do, but because of what it taught. That objects do not need souls. That craft does not require a craftsman. That anything sacred can be mass-produced. And once you believe that about swords, you can believe it about people. Somewhere in the empire, a European child asks her grandmother what honor means. The grandmother pauses. She remembers a word from before the occupation. A word her mother used to describe the knights in old stories. But she cannot translate it into Japanese. And her granddaughter does not speak anything else. The word dies in the pause between languages. A plastic box. A spool of filament. A touchscreen with preloaded designs nobody asked for. That is all it took to end one civilization and birth another. To prove that the line between craftsmanship and industry is not a wall. It is a door. And it only opens one way. Chrono drop.